Memories are built by moments in time. Big or small, these milestones come together to create the legacies by which we're remembered forever. So goes the story of Winchester, the American legend. Over the past 150 years, no single brand of firearms and ammunition has played a bigger role in writing history than Winchester. The story begins in May of 1866. Oliver Winchester established the Winchester Repeating Arms Company to build the finest products possible. His pursuit laid the foundation for what would become one of the world's most recognized and respected brand names, built on integrity and a commitment to the highest quality. Meanwhile, the United States was transforming. When the Civil Rights Act of 1866 became law, those who fought so tirelessly for their freedoms began to bear witness to change for the better. Fast forward to the year 1883. The straight-shooting Winchester reputation was noticed by Buffalo Bill Cody. In his famous Wild West show, Buffalo Bill and his fellow marksmen, including Annie Oakley, used Winchester firearms and ammunition while performing their trick shots. This proud endorsement did much for the fame of the Winchester brand in its early years. These star performers were looked upon as heroes, and their approval helped to launch Winchester toward the 20th century. But Winchester remained focused on innovation and refused to leave the 1800s without revolutionizing a treasured tradition. The year was 1895. Winchester introduced its first commercial smokeless centerfire cartridges, including the .30-30 Winchester. When paired with the model 1894, it's the most famous deer rifle and ammunition combination ever, celebrated for its great accuracy and easy handling. This smokeless cartridge became the perfect companion to the model 1894. Meanwhile, brilliant minds were hard at work inventing exciting new technologies, like Woodville Latham's groundbreaking projection screen and revolutionary Latham loop. Movies had never before been projected to a large audience in the United States. This single invention forever changed how stories were told. The 20th century was off to an extraordinary start. In 1909, Theodore Roosevelt kept the momentum rolling when he and his son Kermit brought 15 crates of Winchester rifles and ammunition to Africa for a one-year-long safari. The safari, sponsored by the Smithsonian Institution, was a scientific expedition. The safari would harvest a broad selection of animals for later scientific study and public display at the Smithsonian. Meanwhile, American inventors and brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright were hard at work, testing their military flyer at Fort Myer. Upon completion of testing, the Wright military flyer became the first military plane to be delivered to the United States Army for a cost of $30,000. Winchester was 53 years young by 1919. The well-established brand had a loyal and faithful base, but lacked the recognizable mark that such a highly respected arms company deserved. That all changed when Philip R. Goodwin created the iconic Horse and Rider painting. Likely his most famous work, the Horse and Rider stands to this day as one of the most recognizable marks in the world. By the year 1925, it was hard to argue that any arms manufacturer had a more significant imprint than Winchester. It was equally hard to assert that any outdoor rider of the period was more impactful than Jack O'Connor. O'Connor wrote passionately about his love for the outdoors as the longtime firearms editor of Outdoor Life magazine. When the flat-shooting .270 Winchester was introduced in '25, O'Connor's writing catapulted the cartridge, making it famous as he touted the round as an effective caliber for the average hunter. Nearly 20 years later, Winchester became entrenched in supporting the worldwide protection and defense of basic rights and freedoms. In June of 1944, Allied forces stormed the beaches at Normandy, marking the start of the final liberation of Europe. After more than half a decade of war, Allied forces were victorious. 15 billion rounds of Winchester ammunition were delivered to American forces during the war. In September of 1945, the Second World War officially ended, with much thanks to the support of Winchester. Meanwhile, back in the United States, Soldiers were returning home to modern conveniences they hadn't seen before going to war. In October, the microwave oven was patented, a small but welcome comfort for America's battle-hardened soldiers. By 1952, much of the dust had settled. Life was returning to normal for many U.S. families. It was time for Winchester to set their crosshairs back on their commitment to product development, field testing, and conservation. Nilo Farms was created in Illinois and stands strong today as one of the finest hunting and shooting facilities in the country. The property's 640 acres remain a testament to Winchester's undying dedication to the wild and the people who enjoy it. The 50s rolled on. Gasoline was around 25 cents per gallon. The average home cost just over $9,000. A loaf of bread was just 16 cents, and a postage stamp was just 3 pennies. No one knew at the time what one stamp of a different nature would end up meaning to Nilo Farms. Until the year 1959, that is. King Buck, a champion black Labrador retriever bred and trained at Nilo Farms, became the first and only dog to ever grace the federal duck stamp. King Buck was a natural in field trials and in the wild. He is still regarded today as the finest retriever the nation has ever known. What King Buck lacked in size, he made up for in style and heart. Winchester continued to support America's war efforts throughout the second half of the 20th century. Fast forward to the 21st century, when heart, courage, and bravery united armed forces worldwide in the global war on terror. During the first decade of the war, Winchester delivered more than 2 billion rounds of ammunition to support America's warfighters. To this day, the fight continues. The 2000s have been full of technological progress. The internet opened the world's eyes to a universe of information. Cell phones got smart. Massive strides were made in science and medicine, and the alleys of entertainment consumption shifted gears forever. Winchester's commitment to technology and innovation keeps the brand poised to continue their legacy for centuries to come. Leading ammunitions like Blindside, Deer Season XP, Longbeard XR, and 17 WSM have set impressive performance standards. Winchester is the decided leader in all hunting and shooting sports because of today's record-shattering speeds, hunting's tightest patterns, unsurpassed knockdown power, increased power loads, and state-of-the-art steel shot. To remember is to appreciate. That's why Winchester proudly introduces one of its collectible sets of commemorative ammunition and firearms. 150 years have come and gone. The American legend has good reason to celebrate. Winchester was there for the turning points, the make or breaks, representing a long and responsible heritage of commitment, pride, and high-quality products. The test of time has strengthened the Winchester name, a name, rest assured, that will always take a leading role in advancing and supporting conservation, hunter education, and our country's proud shooting sports heritage. Winchester, celebrating 150 years of legendary excellence.